Hi, everybody. Welcome to Attack with Larry C. I'm your host, Larry Christiansen. In this episode, it's my sad duty to report the loss, passing of a truly iconic figure in American chess, and that is the recent death of Emory Tate, well known, a great attacking player, showman, brilliant showman. Nobody could talk a chess game like Mr. Emory Tate, bar none. He had no peers. Running commentary by Tate was the expressions just rolled off his tongue. He was just amazing, especially talking about his own games. But he was also quite a student of the game, especially the attacking department. He really had a great feel for the initiative, for tact, for opportunities. But his eyes were always set at the enemy king, and very, very aggressive, probably too aggressive for his own good. But he has a legacy of many fine games, both over the board, online games, casual games. He had often showed great sparks of brilliance. And we'll show, I think, a couple examples in this episode. I've known Emory Tate since I believe, late 1980s, early 90s. He started becoming prominent. I know he was a multi-time NATO champion. He was in the Air Force for many years, reaching the rank of Master Sergeant. He spoke perfect Russian, perfect Spanish. He was trilingual, which has surprised many people. He could converse with Russians and Spanish and Americans or English all at the same time without skipping a beat. And very talented gentleman. And we had many fine evenings discussing things with Emery. Chess world, how things were going, and usually always his latest brilliancy would be demonstrated. I remember one time he's showing off a game, a really great, and I thought, who is this guy? Hey, Larry, sit down. I got to show you this brilliancy. This is an amazing game I played. And I'm a little skeptical at first, and so he shows me the game, and one fine move comes after another. And all the while, he's explaining the subtleties, the hidden ideas, the hidden variations. He was in his element when he was showing off these great games. Okay, this is a game from 1996 between Emory Tate and Gregory Serper. And this game illustrates Tate's creativity, his drive to win, his resourcefulness. And let's assess the position first of all. Materially, Black is ahead. He's up the exchange. Full exchange. His king is a little insecure, hemmed in by that wedge, the Tate wedge, f6, g5. But White's king is also in some peril. White has a very strong-looking bishop on b5, but that chain on c3, d4, e5 looks rather imposing. Hard to believe that White could whip up any kind of attack, decisive attack in this position. Let's see how the game transpired. White played queen e4, and I can actually hear right now Tate saying, "Larry, I read your book. When in doubt, centralize." Well, he probably said that before I did, but he was a natural, plays a good, excellent move, centralizing the queen, where it's really it's optimized in its range and its powers. And Serper played knight b7. I think he would have been better advised to play rook b8, putting the rook opposite the king. And with careful play, he should be able to hold. White has many tactical ideas here, I should say. Now, instead he played knight b7, planning something like knight d6. And White played a5. What else can he do? He can play rook e1 as a thought. to put pressure on the pawn on e5. Also, ideas like knight takes d4 are suddenly come into view, with utilizing the weak white back rank. If knight c5, white should avoid giving up his own back rank, because that would be absolutely hopeless for white. However, he could consider rook h1, threatening mate. Rook takes h1, queen takes h1, threatening mate. If king g8, white can play bishop c4, not queen h6, knight e6, not so hot. Bishop c4, though, comes with a lot of punch. If knight takes b3, yes, queen h6 does win. Knight d2 check, king a1. It's all over. Bishop f8, queen g6 check. King h8 check. King g8, g6. And the black king is cooked. Okay, knight c5, rook e1, knight c5, rook h1. What about rook g8? Well, then white can play queen h4, the horrific threat of queen h6 check. Puts black in a major pickle. So black must take, queen takes, king g8, bishop c4. That horrible threat of queen h6 lurks. Black must play really knight e6, bishop takes, f takes. And then he can re-centralize the queen again. Attacking g6. And then after king f7, queen h1, white's very much in the game. Very tough situation here suddenly for black. Now he might also try king h8, which sets up a cheap trick. Queen takes g6, queen h7, forcing a queen trade. And black wins, despite the strong protected passers. But here, instead of queen takes g6, white has other options. He can play a5, for instance. Lots of counterplay. Situation very much in doubt. So rook e1, I think, was the solid choice here. But instead, he played the trickier a4, a5. Now, after knight takes a5, knight takes a5, if black plays bishop takes a5, that would be a fatal mistake, because it surrenders control of the a3, f8 diagonal, and white delivers mate with rook h1. If rook takes h1, queen takes h1, there's no defense to mate on either g7 or h8. If rook g8, then bishop a3 check is brutal, forces quick mate. But what about queen takes a5, which was the game continuation? I should point out, after black should have avoided knight takes a5 here and played rook b8, putting the rook opposite the white king. And with perfect play there, black should be on top. Let's say rook h1 there, rook takes, queen takes h1, black can hold with king g8, threat that meets queen h6 with bishop f8. If a6, black plays the defensive-minded knight d8. Now he's stretching. His defenses are stretched, but not broken. Black seems to have the edge. Lots of play, no doubt, in the position. Okay, let's see the game continuation, which was knight takes a5, takes, queen takes. And now Tate puts the bishop on the excellent post, bishop c4. Now he could have forced a draw here with rook h1. Rook takes h1, queen takes h1, king g8, and now bishop c4, threatening queen h6 takes g6. If bishop f8, queen e4, threatens queen takes g6, and after check, bishop b3, black has nothing better than king h7, and white can force a draw if he wants it. Knowing Tate, he didn't want it. But instead, he played bishop c4 first, and Serper played bishop a3. He wants to conquer b2, put pressure on white's king. Emery answered with calm, deliberate bishop b3. and setting a very mean little trap. How should black continue? Well, he should have played rook b8 to pin that dangerous bishop, and then he really does threaten bishop takes c1 for real. White can then play rook e1. Here's the real idea behind it. If bishop takes c1, no, he doesn't play king takes c1. He plays instead rook h1. Again, now black has surrendered, temporarily given up that diagonal. So if rook takes h1, queen takes h1, black is got nothing better than rook takes b3 check, a takes b3, and then king e8. White then forces a draw with queen c6 check, king d8, queen d6 check, king c8, queen c6 check. If king b8, then he starts eating key pawns. The f pawn is a big one. And black has he's either going to lose or face perpetual check. You better take the perpetual. If he comes out, he'll lose. So rook b8, rook e1 definitely keeps the game very much in doubt. But instead, no doubt in time pressure, Serper played bishop takes c1. White to move and win. And there it is. He plays queen b7, hitting the pawn on f7, threatening mate. Rook h7, and now classic case overloaded rook h1. And Scott carries two threats, not just rook takes rook, by the way. Now Serper played queen a3, threatening mate. What does white do? Actually, there are two ways to win, but Tate found, of course, the elegant queen takes f7 check, and black resign. Nice little save by Emory Tate, typical of his sharp, uncompromising play at this period of his career. Okay, and his next game, really a great game. Classic attacking game. This was his victory over Leonid Grandmaster, highly regarded GM, Leonid Udawsin, and just an excellent game from start to finish. And again, we see a Fischer variation Najdorf by Tate. I think he also played the bishop g5. He played queen f3, f4 ideas. He played them all, always aggressively. And here he plays g4. Very sharp, aggressive continuation. And if Udawsin played h6, I think he had in mind the idea of playing g5 in response. And after bishop e7 to play h4. I think that might be a Tate idea. The idea behind this is if knight takes e4, knight takes e4, bishop takes g5, knight takes g5, queen takes g5, hg, rook takes, king d2, rook takes a1. At first glance, it looks like black is doing well. But after knight f5, he's actually under some pressure on the king side and the center. Looks like white has all the chances. And of course, black doesn't have to take on e4 either. Instead, Udawsin didn't play h6. He played b5. And here we have a new twist on an old idea, Tate twist, and that is bishop d5. First the g5 and bishop d5. Now black takes. Actually, I think e takes d5 happens to be the best move here. The plan was knight c6, queen b6, e takes d5 check. And now after knight e5, if white plays f4, bishop g4 is rather unpleasant for white. If queen e3, black has knight d3 check, c takes d3 check, bishop takes, knight takes d3 check, king d2, knight takes b2, and black is having all the fun in this position, thanks to that c4 square. Now, after ed, knight c6, queen b6, ed5 check, knight e5, white can also play knight takes. Maybe this is what Emery had in mind. d e5, queen takes e5 check, king d8, and let's say bishop e3. But it's not clear to me that white has sufficient compensation for the material sacrificed. For instance, queen d6 blockading the d5 pawn, threatening to trade queens. Queen d4, bishop f5 looks very promising for black. So, but instead of e takes d5, Serper played bishop b7, and now here white gets the initiative. a4. So here at b4, white definitely has strong attack after knight d5. If e takes d5, knight c6 is very strong. Queen b6, ed, knight e5. He always has f4, getting his piece back. There's no bishop g4 anymore. And if knight d5, a5, well, it's almost, well, it's 100% sure white has excellent play in this position. Udawson played b takes a4. Rook takes a4. A natural rook lift for Mr. Tate. Knight c5, rook a3, excellent spot for the rook. It's pressuring a6 and also eager to get into battle on the other side of the board. And now both players devote time to development. Okay, now what? Black's about to get castled, and start working on counterplay. White's position looks promising, but his own king is a bit wide open. Let's see what Mr. Tate cooks up. Well, he brings his king to maximum safety in the corner, and also makes available the G file for a white rook. So he's setting the table, allowing black's king now to escape the safety. And now the fun begins. First, a little pawn sacrifice by Emery. Well, it's a pawn offer, I should say. Of course, queen takes b4, knight c6 wins a piece. So black has to do something with the knight. Knight b7 is very, very passive. It leads to something similar to the game. Knight f5 was a strong attack for no price. So Serper played knight a4, hoping for knight takes a4, queen takes d4, the perfectly sound, solid game. Better game, really. Tate, I'm not interested in such a course. Starts investing pieces for the attack. Knight f5. Usually you see this with a white king on c1 or b1. Here we're seeing it with a king on h1. Classic Sicilian sacrifices. So Udawson grabs the knight. If you play bishop d8 here, of course white just wins a piece. Now knight d5. Hitting the queen and the bishop, forcing queen d8, and here I'm sure Udawson was hoping for rook takes a4, then he can consolidate, trade some pieces off, and black has a perfectly playable game. Knight takes b6, queen takes b6, rather ho-hum affair. Knight e takes f5, oops, check. Tate not interested in that knight on the rim. He goes right for the jugular, starting with e takes f5, hitting the bishop, rook e8, and now rook, queen h5, going for mate. So Tate now is, of course, planning the horrific-looking rook h3. The knight, he can still also consider taking that random knight on a4. He's more interested in playing rook h3 and or f6. A lot of tools available. Now, what if black had played g6? After g6, white can then play f takes g6. If hg, he succumbs quickly after queen h4, planning rook h3. If then bishop f8, he simply takes on a4 with a crushing position. What about f takes g6? Well, then white can consider queen h3 or queen g4. It looks like queen h3 is quite promising. If bishop takes g5, white just smashes forward with f2, f4. Bishop e7, rook takes a4, and black's position is a train wreck. Here comes f5, queen e6 checks, lurking, Black's overwhelmed. If Black tries knight a b6, White can play knight takes b6. If queen takes b6, he can play then queen takes d7 with a solid extra pawn. Or he can play queen e6 check. If king h8, he can then play queen takes d7 under even better circumstances. He's got bishop b2 check waiting. Now, then if queen takes b4, White can play rook e3, hitting the bishop on e7. If rook a d8, queen c6, rook c8, let's say queen takes a6. Now White's a pawn up. Black's king is still very vulnerable. White has excellent chances, but certainly g6 was a stouter defense than the game continuation, which was knight a4 to b6. How does White continue? Well, rook h3 for starters. Now here comes knight f8, but what does White do now? f6. Okay, that's obvious enough, but what happens then after knight takes d5? F takes e7. Looks like White's coming up very, very, very short. And the point is that we don't need that bishop. He just plays f takes g7. Threatening to crash through with g takes f8 check. So now he takes the Black king is fully exposed now, and what's left of Tate's forces is more than sufficient to deliver mate. f6, of course, is of no help. What does White do? He plays rook g1. The best moves are worth waiting for and setting up, with a horrific threat of g takes f6 check, followed no doubt by mate. So Serper tried king g8, and here's the move g6, a bone crusher that had to be foreseen many moves before. Probably when Tate played 23 rook h3, he already had this move in mind, maybe before that. Of course, now if f takes g6, queen takes d5 check leads swiftly to mate. hg is mate in 1, and knight takes g6 is mate in 2. Although probably Tate would have preferred queen h8 check. Black has no recourse except to try bishop f6. f6 also loses quickly to queen takes d5 check. So he tried bishop f6, g takes f7 check, king h8, and now Emery missed. Well, he didn't really miss it. He saw the forced win. If he had looked a little more carefully, though, the slightly more artistic queen g5 would have been selected, no doubt about it, threatening mate. And then if knight e6, White forces quick mate with queen h6. Knight f8 again, rook g1. Now Black tries this desperation rook e1 business. White has the very artistic mate, queen g7, bishop takes g7 mate. As it was, his game line was excellent as well. He's no hurry to grab that rook. Petty material gain was not on the agenda. He wanted mate. So he plays rook g1, threatening mate on g8. The only way to avert mate here is the absolutely desperate rook e1. Rook takes e1, bishop takes b2. Of course, queen takes d5 is a trivial win, but he went for mate here with rook e8, threatening mate on h7, and here after knight f6, of course the queen moves somewhere, we have mate on h7. After knight f6, now White forced win with rook takes d8, queen h6, double attack. White is now threatening queen takes f6 check, threatening mate on g7 here. Finally, Dawson resign. Tremendous game by Emory Tate. This is really before computers became mainstream, and I think a lot of the analysis and preparation for this game was done by hand by Emery. And of course, to his credit, Emery had many other great attacking games. He played a nice game against Nick DeFermian. I know that one. Quite familiar with that, involving a long-term sacrifice. Many other games. He beat Dmitry Gurevich in a very nice encounter. Plus, he was very active here online, playing quite frequently on ICC under the title Tate, and he had quite a following here. And so the chess world is a much quieter and also less interesting place without Emery. It's really a shame of his early passing. But his games live on, his inspiration. He's kind of player will not be long forgotten, that's for sure. So that'll do it for this episode for Attack with Larry C. and with Emery. I strongly advise a lot of my listeners to go through some of his great games. There's the two in our list here, and many go to, I think, chessvibes.com has a good selection, and many other sites. Feel free to indulge in some great attacking play by Emory Tate. And that'll do it. Thanks everyone for joining me.
Hi, this is Grandmaster Damian Lemos. First of all, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you would like to receive more free chess videos from us, you can just click the subscribe button below. I would also highly recommend signing up for my free mail course, the 10 Grandmaster Secrets to Dominate Chess. During this exclusive course from onlinechesslessons.net, I'll share with you my own Grandmaster shortcuts to effective attacking, defending, and growth hacks to improving your chess without complicated books or memorization. So sign up by clicking the sidebar on the right, and I know you won't be disappointed. Once more, this is Damian for onlinechesslessons.net, and I'll see you in my videos. Thank you.